Okay. And so the reason why we have a budget, it's important to have a budget. It's because we want to be able to have an awareness of what is coming in the way of income, and what's coming out in a way of expenses. And like I said at the beginning, if this is regardless of how much money you make, okay? It doesn't matter if you're a millionaire or not. You need to have a handle of what's coming in and what's coming out. The second benefit of having a budget is that you are able to track, right? You're going to become more knowledgeable about what categories need to have more attention and where you're spending more than what you should be, right? A good budget should also be categorized, right? Meaning that there should be some line items with things like, essentials, which are your mortgage if you own a house, rent, food, utilities, meaning electricity, heating. Those are essentials. And then she'll have a list of what we call discretionary expenses, and these include entertainment, right? Vacations, things that are not essential, right, that you can live without. But that's what it makes a good budget. What should you be looking for? Well, especially around this time, right, where there is a pandemic. So first of all, start looking at any services that you don't need anymore. For example, gym memberships, right? And again, if you have been seeing me, I'm one of them, right? So I had a very nice membership to Chelsea Piers. I live in Connecticut, and Chelsea Piers have a nice facility in Stamford, and I'm a member. But, of course, can't go to it. So one thing that they did, I reach out myself, but one of the things that they did for all the members is that they froze the membership. So that works out. If whatever membership you have, you might be wanting to check out and see if they can do the same for you, because you can't go to a gym. Another one is, try to look at things like clothing. I am spending a lot less in clothing than I was, pre-pandemic. And so there's a lot of areas where you can find opportunities to cut down. Vacationing, I'm not sure anybody's taking vacations or planning to have one. That's another area that you should be seeing some savings, right? And taxes, it's tax season, right? We just finished it. So if you are anticipating a tax refund, a good idea is to plan how you can use it for essential expenses. And, if you can afford it, if you say, well, I'm already covered, I have enough money covering for my basic expenses, then why not use that refund to start an emergency fund and start savings? Why don't we go to the next slide? And let me know, because I can't tell, obviously.
Yeah, I'm at slide tip 2.
So this is the second advice, and here's where can I find opportunities to reduce my expenses? Where can I allow for excess? And so for example, the internet, no pun intended here, right? But do we still need the unlimited data plan? If you're mostly at home, there might be opportunities for you. This is all very personal. It depends on every situation. But there is opportunities to reduce the cost of those, the plans that you currently have. Cooking. I am cooking a lot more than before because, right, the entertainment has got down. We're not going out to restaurants anymore. And I understand that a lot of people are ordering in and having these plans coming at home. But why not? Try cooking at home. You will see that not only you can control the ingredients and therefore, lose some weight, but you're also going to see a lot of savings. I have seen it. Leaks. We call them leaks, because these are things that you don't think are happening, and they're hacking your budget. And things like, and we all are guilty of these things, right? The retailers, as soon as you buy something, you give your email address, and there you go. Every other day, you get alerts with, your favorite items and that are for sale. So that's one idea, easy and simple. Is why don't you cut that down? And because it's tempting, right? It's psychological, and you know yourself. So perhaps it's easier just to, unsubscribe, and that way you don't know and you don't get tempted to buy things that you don't need. Here's another one. And for those who are currently working, I know my employer, Bank of America, has really pumped their offering to their employees. But reach out. There's so many offers from discounted shopping, discounted gym memberships, discounted legal advice. There's a lot of things that you can find through your jobs, through your human resources, and it's a way also to cut down on your expenses. My IT person, i.e. my husband, tells me that I'm back. So I'm going to stop here and perhaps and try to zoom back into the event. In the meantime, if there are any questions, please use the Q&A session and type them, and we can address them either as I go or at the end of the call. But feel free to make a comment, okay? Teresita, if you can help with that, that will be great. While I
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to just hold your presentation right here. I mean, I will turn the screen sharing over to you actually once you're back on.
Are we getting questions and comments?
Right now, thank you for, okay. We did have one question, of course, the first, and thank you so much for this question. Arisleyda, will you be able to make these slides available to the participants at a later date?
Absolutely.
Okay.
As soon as tomorrow morning, I'll be able to have them to Teresita, and she can distribute it to you guys, or you can email me and I can email it to you. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll suggest towards the end for those that are on this call, I'll share Arisleyda's email, and you could directly ask her for the presentation deck. Okay.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Any other questions coming in?
Yeah, hold on. We've got. Okay. Here we go. I have another question. How much time, this is prior to the pandemic, should you spend planning your budget, and how often should one do that?
So remember, and I'm back.
Thank you. That's great.
Hi, everybody. So I'm going to address the question. Teresita, if you can please give me access to my presentation, that will be great, so I can be back here on the saddle.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Okay, so I'm giving you the sharing capability now, so you could pull up. Do you have the presentation with you? Do you have your own presentation? Okay, so you're welcome to pull it up. So let me just restate the question again. How much time, and this is prior to the pandemic, do you spend planning your budget, and how often do you do it? Thank you again for that question.
Yeah, so the planning of a budget, I mean, the other characteristic of a good budget, it has to be simple enough that it works for you, right? So a budget is collecting expenses, right? Lining all your expenses. I have seen people using spreadsheets, Excel spreadsheets. There's a lot of them that are available. There are apps that you can download if that's what you prefer. A lot of the online accounts now, every financial institution also gives access to a budgeting worksheet. We at Bank of America has an interactive worksheet And basically what you do is that it's already categorized. It has all the names of the expenses, rent, mortgage, gym, hair care, and all you have to do is type down the amounts, right? So that's an easy way. Once that is collected, right, then like I said, it's a live document. So you want to go back, right, because you're going to do it monthly, you're going to do it weekly. So you want to go back and keep updating this so that you actually can have you have the ability to track it. You follow me? So planning, I don't want to get all of us caught up on planning. You can start now. How? Well, you can write down what you spent, what was your expenses today, for example, right? And do that again tomorrow, and then tomorrow, and then again tomorrow, and then that way you have an idea of where you're spending your money, okay? So I'm excited because I'm back, and I will. Why not? I'm going to take a moment here, and I'm going to show you this video. I think you're going to like it.
Okay.
What do you say, Teresita?
Yeah, if you could launch it, that would be excellent. So go right ahead. You should. It's all under your control now.
Okay. Can you all hear it?
We can hear something. Do you need to click on the actual page? Yeah, we're hearing, but we're not seeing.
Can also be because women are more likely to take the career off-ramp to be caretakers. You know, we also live longer, which means more healthcare expenses. Resiliency is factor financially too? Absolutely, because we have to learn new skills and go through different phases of life, and the financial skills.
Okay, we only have the audio, Arisleyda.
Oh, okay, that's not good.
Why don't you, okay.
No worries.
Often women have lower lifetime.
Yeah, we only have the audio at this point, but it's trying to, starting the screen sharing, double click to enter the full screen. Maybe you need to enter. Yeah, there it goes. Oh, yeah, you do. Here, your video is up now. Thank you.
Okay. There you go.
We all face a unique set of challenges. Often women have lower lifetime incomes on average than men, and that can be because of the pay gap. Also be because women are more likely to take the career off-ramp to be caretakers. You know, we also live longer, which means more healthcare expenses. Resiliency is factors financially too? Absolutely, because we have to learn new skills and go through different phases of life, and the financial skills that help you at one phase are different than later, and so we have to keep growing and changing. And then there are, you know, down markets and up markets, you know, things that go wrong that we didn't plan for, and how do we bounce back from those? One of the childhood things that I internalized, because we did not have money when I was growing up, was that if you were rich, you didn't have to think about money. And I realized that's a mistake. You do actually have to think about it and learn skills and have conversations and get advice and all of those things. And as a business leader, I'm focused on growing my business, but then managing my money is a different skill. And so it's just focus, carving out that kind of.
Arisleyda, can you increase the volume, please? There are people having trouble hearing.
I'm very comfortable, had a lovely life growing up. My mother was very traditional, and my father was the breadwinner, and I just was always groomed to think that the man will provide the money. And so for me to get out there on my own and start to make my own money was just one of the most liberating, incredible experiences I've ever had in my life. And talk about empowering. I mean, that's what money is meant to me.
Well, I hope you were able to catch that. That was, you know, that lady. She's a gold medalist in the special needs in the Paralympic tournaments, and the other lady's a business owner. She's the owner of Soul Cycle. You may have heard of that company. And for me, it was very emotional because you know it doesn't. You know, there's a lot of stigma, I guess, around women, and it doesn't matter your background. We all need to get a better control of our finances. We need to do a better job at empowering ourselves and stand on our own. So I thought that would be a nice visual for us. But again, so why don't we go now to the third tip? So we talked about budgeting and the importance of budgeting, and we talked about cutting expenses and ways where we can be a little bit more creative around this time and start cutting expenses. The third part of the process, it's saving and investing. Saving and investing. And, one good advice for everybody is to make sure that you have an emergency savings fund. And a lot of people ask, well, what is it and how do I start and how much should it be? Well, an emergency fund, it's money that you set aside for expenses that can happen unexpectedly, right? Like what? Well, your car can break down. Your refrigerator breaks down. The stove breaks down. You need to go to the dentist, and now you have this expense, this new bill that you didn't think that you were going to have. So things happen in life. Another big one that can happen, and it's a bad one, is that you can lose your job. So the idea is that you are prepared, right? You plan ahead, and you park some money, so that way when these things happen, you don't have to you don't have to go to a credit card, right? So how much should it be in this emergency savings account? Well, the rule of thumb is you 3 months, at least 3 months of your living expenses. How do you get that? Well, you go back to the budget that you made, right, and you add up all the basic expenses, how much you pay for rent, how much you pay for the electricity, how much you pay for the phone, how much you pay for food, and you total that, and you multiply that by 3 months, right? So, for example, if your total amount of basic expenses come to be about $3,000 per month, right? Then you multiply that by 3, and that's $9,000. So you should consider, right? You should look at that as the minimum that you should have in an emergency savings account. If you don't have one now, right, that's okay. Well, make that your goal, right, your priority, and you say to yourself, I'm going to, in a year, in 6 months, I'm going to start saving so I can have a funded emergency savings account, right? Credit cards, my goodness, everybody, I'm not going to even ask that question. Everybody owns a credit card. This is America, right? It's a land of consumerism, and unfortunately, and credit cards, they serve a purpose, right? The credit cards are good because what they do, one, they help you build credit, right? If you don't have credit, you're dead in the water in this country, right? So credit card is a good starting point to someone young to start building credit. The other good purpose is that sometimes, there is a big purchase and you don't have the cash in hand, right? So you use the credit card with the goal, with the intention that in 30 days you're going to pay it off. So you get the 30-day benefit that you don't have to pay it. You can wait 30 days and then you pay the bill. So that's a good purpose. The other one, actually, there are 3 advantages of having a credit card, which is this is my best one because I believe in it totally. It's safer than cash, right? I mean, if it gets stolen, easy. You can call and cancel a card, right? Not so with cash, and especially now with the pandemic, with the Bank of America has all the cards now issued by Bank of America are contactless, so you don't have to touch anything. So credit cards are good. The challenge is that when people use a credit card and don't pay the balance, right? And that's not good because then you carry an interest, right? The next month you haven't even used the card, you haven't even purchased anything, and you already have a balance on top of that. So that's a problem. And what is a problem? Well, if you have, I would say, about $10,000 $12,000 in your credit card, that is a concern. Okay, that's the average balance in America. So if you have that, if you have more than that, that's an issue, right? Student loans, it's a separate category. It's debt, but we understand, right? But everything else, credit cards, $10,000, that's high. Then savings, we all have goals. We all have wishes, financial goals. Perhaps yours is to buy a car. Perhaps you want to buy a house. Perhaps you want to get married in 3 years. So these are all very natural, good goals, and you should start planning for them and saving for them. That's the best. The best goals are the ones that are in the future, because then you have plenty of time, right? So you start planning, you start calculating what the cost will be for those wishes of yours. Perhaps it's a big vacation, and you start planning for them and putting money away. Of course, these things have to be easy. It's all, use psychology, and you know it yourself. We always tell people, set up the automatic deposit from your checking account, because that way it's not manual, and money that you don't see, you don't touch. You put it in a money market. Don't leave it in your checking account, because you know what's going to happen. You're going to write a check. You're going to go to the ATM machine and use it. So the money that you're going to save, you put it separately where you don't see it, and you make it easier. And then the making regular deposits, that's another big one. And what happens is, when you commit to not just save, but you make it frequent. For those who are working and participating in a 401k plan, you get this, right? Because you're doing it. Every pay period, you're putting money into your 401k plan. It works. So the same thing you can do, the same concept you can do with any account. And you say to yourself, I'm going to put $100, I'm going to put $200 every week, every month, every quarter, whatever works for you, right? You know your budget. Let's go back to the first one. And depending on that, then you can set up a dollar amount and a frequency, and then you start doing this regularly. And then when we talk about investing, then the dollar cost averaging effect, it works very nicely. What is the dollar cost averaging? That every time you put money away into an investment, right, you're going to be making purchases at different times. And as the market goes up, the market goes down, you are constantly buying, right? Every week, every quarter, every 6 months, whatever frequency you set up. But that allows you to participate in the market and allows you to buy more shares when the market is down, right?
Arisleyda, I have we're collecting quite a number of questions here, and I don't mean to interrupt you. I know I'll try to save as many as I can for the end. I just feel like some of these might be missed, and they're falling in line with what you're talking about. Let me give you one question that I think I know you're going to touch on through your slides. Given the relaxed restrictions in response to the pandemic, do you advise taking money from your 401k for use?
Oh.
That is a hot question.
That's a hard question, and I have graphs. I have 2 slides on that.
Good.
No. The answer is no. It's very tempting. It's very, very tempting. I understand, but there are very good reasons. There are financial reasons. There are numerical reasons not to touch that. So we're going to go with I have 2 scenarios. Yeah. 2 different situations where people, exactly what you mean, exactly, in the pandemic, with 401k plans and trying to make a withdrawal. The 401k plans are accounts meant to be for retirement, right? Meant to be when you're 59 and a half. And so if you tap into them now, there's going to be tax consequences, there are going to be cost consequences, and there's going to be, more importantly, this compounding effect, this investment return effect is going to be gone. It's going to be gone. So, but I will show you. Well, I have a slide, and you actually will see the impact of making a withdrawal. As small as you think, it makes a big, big effect down the road. So thank you for that question. So, saving and investing. Let's continue on that.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Do you have control of your slides, Arisleyda?
I do.
Okay, that's fine.
I do. So the inflation and compounding. So these are two concepts. I'm sure you all are familiar with them. I mean, you all are professional women. And inflation is one that we hear a lot in the news, right? The Federal Reserve, it has a war against inflation and making sure that the inflation is managed. So it's a very well used concept economically.
Yeah, Arisleyda, I'm sorry, Arisleyda, I'm not seeing your screen change. I don't know if you're.
No, we are on the inflation and compounding, Teresita. Do you see my slide?
No, I don't see that here.
You don't see my slide?
No.
Okay.
Let me just do a quick check with the folks if they are actually seeing your slides change. If you see the slides change, please provide a hands up.
I have here that I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah, it doesn't appear to be. Let me just make sure.
I'll do it again. Not to worry.
Okay, yeah, if you don't mind. Okay, started sharing the screen. Okay, it's just waiting to build it. Sorry, folks. Bear with us. Yeah, they weren't seeing the slides. I had a couple of people coming back.
Can you see it now?
No, not yet. We're not seeing your presentation. Do you mind if I just switch over and do it for you?
Go ahead. But you can go ahead. It's okay. We can continue. Inflation and compounding, right? Everybody can follow. So these are two concepts that are very important when it comes to saving, which is a third tip, right? So inflation, as I was saying, right? It's an economic term, and the compounding is another one. But when it comes to investors and people like yourselves, like all of us here, trying to save for the future, what does that mean? Well, it means that we have to understand how inflation takes growth out of our savings. And if anybody, the inflation is basically the price of goods.
Okay.
And the best way I can explain it, the simplest way, is that we always have heard our parents and grandparents talk about how cheap things were at their time, right, during their time. Oh, my goodness, the price of a stamp, I remember, it was in the pennies, right? The cost of the subway was nothing like it is now. So what has happened? Yeah, things have gotten more expensive over time. Well, the reason is because of inflation, right? The price of goods and not fancy goods. These are your basic goods go up in price. Can anyone tell me what the inflation rate is today? You can Google it, and you can then put it in your chat. Do you see anything?
I'm checking right now. There's the screen, the way the screen is. So we have, oh, that's a question. I'm sorry. Bear with me. I don't know. Do people know the inflation rate?
It's 2.4, guys. You can look it up later. So the inflation rate is 2.4, which means what? That if it stays the same, this annual inflation rate, the example here is 3%, so it's close enough, but it's 2.4. So if it stays the same, basically what it's telling us is that in 10 years, in 20 years, right, the price of goods are going to be 2.4 more expensive than what they are now. And so if we have $8, right, and we don't save it, we don't invest it, and we leave it just in the pillow, right, which happens a lot more than what you think. And I hope you're not one of those people, right? They keep it in their pillow or in the safe deposit. What happens is in 20 years, you're going to come out and you're going to say, look, I have my dollar. I have my dollar. I didn't lose. I'm a winner, and I didn't lose. And I'm going to say to you, you did lose. You did lose because 20 years later, that dollar is worth less, right? You're going to be buying less than what you were able to buy 20 years ago with that dollar. And it's that 2.3%. And hopefully, I mean, it can be higher, and that's what the Federal Reserve also, but we're not going to talk about that. That's why they keep an eye on that. But intuitively, if you are an investor, if you are a saver, right, and you know that the interest rate, the inflation rate, it's running at a 2.3%, what is the minimum rate that you should be demanding for, that you should be looking for when you put your money into a savings account or an investment vehicle? Intuitively, if you are looking to, in the future, 20 years from now, and you know the inflation rate is running at 2.3%, you want to be you want your money to be earning at the very least 2.3%, right? You follow me? So you can be at least at par of inflation. But I would say you want to make more than inflation. You want to exceed the inflation rate. So that's why, my friends, that's why it's so important when you look at the savings account, what is my rate? And then that's why also cash is not a very good idea to fund long-term goals, right? Because more than 10 years, if you're thinking of 10 years away to accomplish something financially, you need to be investing in something.
Arisleyda, we have another very, very hot question here again, and
Okay.
I apologize for interrupting, but it's coming up over and over again. How often should one check their accounts then with regard to comments that you're just making?
So if it's an emergency savings account, not a lot, right? Because what are you going to watch, right? It's there. You want to make sure it's in a reputable financial institution, and that's it. Then for other types of accounts, right, you want to make sure that it's making interest, right? Interest rates tend to vary, so you want to watch for that. And sometimes I always, money market savings, sometimes they don't pay much. That's the way it is. I mean, there's nothing that I'm aware of in a savings type of vehicle that would give you 1% or even 2%, right? So the next thing is to be investing. And how often you should be looking at your investing? Well, I would say that at least once a year, right? Once a year you should be sitting down and reviewing your accounts and looking for, did I go away? I probably went away.
No, you're fine. You're still on there. We're on your
Okay.
I'm only on your inflation side. So just tell me which
So-
slide you'd like to be on.
So this is fine, and leave it there. I'm addressing the question. So
yes.
So I would say that at least once a year you should sit down and look at your accounts, right? And in relation to your life and your situation, right? I doubt that any of us, a lot of our situations change daily and monthly. You don't want to be, that's not right. But at least once a year, it's healthy to review performance, but also review yourself. Where are you Are you on track with your goals? Have your circumstances have changed? Your job, your bonuses, things like that, right? Does that make sense? So we don't want to be daily, but we also don't want to be 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road. No, I don't know. I never seen anything, right? That's not the case. So we are talking about, we did inflation. We can move on from that, Teresita, thank you. And now we're going on that compounding concept. And it works the same way when you're investing or whether you are saving, and earning interest rate. What happens is, the compounding effect is if you put $1 today, right, and then you earn, let's say, 5% on that money. Now, at the end of the year, you have $1.05, right? Simple, very simple. So what happens is, and if you leave that money for another year, earning 5%, now what happens is you start not with $1, because you start with $1.05. So you're going to earn an additional 5% over $1.05, right? So that's how. So that second year, you end up with more than $1.05, right? And then multiply that again, and we don't have to. I mean, we all have calculators, and if you want to have fun, but if you do that again and again and again for 10, 20 years, right? Leaving the money there, and then growing, applying an interest rate over the money again and again every year, then you actually will have. That's how you create wealth. That's how money is made, and it's that compounding effect. And what happens is, in practice, when I tell my clients, leave the money there. I always say, be patient, because the temptation is to pull money out, right? Take money out, especially when markets are down. There's a lot of volatility. There's a lot of uncertainty, and the markets, so people pull money out. Well, if you pull the money out, the compounding effect dies. It ceases, right? Because now there is no money to grow on. There's no money to put interest on, right? And so now you're out of the market. You're not participating, and then to wait until it comes back, which we don't know, right? We don't know when it comes back. And if you waited one day or 2 days, you're already late. So the best thing is to stay in, especially, again, when you're saving for that long-term goal, and investing, and let the compounding effect do the magic, right, of growing your money. So can we go to the next slide?
Yeah, we're there.
Okay. So we talked about the benefits of compounding. This particular slide talks about, someone, Susan, who saves $100 for 40 years.
No, I'm sorry. This one is.
No, go back.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Susan has she puts $100 every month. Remember, I talk about that frequency and regularity. So $100 per month for 40 years, and she ends up with $349,000. Again, we are assuming an 8% return. That's a little high, right? But that's an average. So 8%. She's disciplined. No matter what happens, she leaves it there. But Lisa doesn't do anything for a while. She actually waits 20 years and then says, well, this is the time for me to start saving. Now I have the time, or whatever her excuse is. And she does that, and then what happens is she ends up with a lot less than what Sue did. And that's because she missed that compounding effect. And then we have a third situation, and the person, let me just get there. It's Karen, and she ends up with a lot less, with only $73,000. So that's a big difference. And we're looking at the. So why don't we go now to the next slide? And what I'm going to do here is I have two families, right? And one is Ben. Meet Ben. And he's 30 years old. He was able, his job offered a 401k plan, and he took advantage of it and put money away. He did the right thing, and so he has a $32,000 in that 401k plan. No, I'm sorry. His income is $32,000. In the 401k plan, he has $10,000. Okay, and then he loses his job, like a lot of people have, right? He loses his job because the company closed because of the coronavirus. So what's going on? Well, we know that he's 30 and he's young, meaning that he has lots of years ahead of him, yes, and most likely he's going to be back on his feet in terms of a job. He is single, so that tells me, right, that he doesn't have, he doesn't have kids to support, okay, but let's see what happens. And one can say, geez, he doesn't need to worry about taking money out of his retirement account. Let's take a look. So what happens is we also, if you go lower, please, Teresita, so people can see. We're also going to add to his situation that he's filed for unemployment benefits, which means that he's getting an additional $600 per week. And then he gets the $1,200 stimulus check. Okay, that's important. And we also, why not? Let's say that he filed his taxes and got also a return. All right, so that's his situation. But he's lost his job, right? So one of the things that he does is he right away goes back to the budget and starts updating it. Somebody asked the question, how many times? Well, this is a major event, right? He lost his job. So that's it doesn't matter if you already looked at it a month ago or a week ago, this is a very important time to take a look at and revise your budget. Let's go to the next slide.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
So the next slide, what can he do? What is he doing? So first of all, he goes back to the budget and start looking at areas where he can cut down the spending while he looks for a job. We know he's single, but he likes, he has his siblings, he has his parents. So one of the things he does, which is also very good advice, is to start. He looks at the beneficiary designations. We tend to forget. He looks at the beneficiary designations of his 401k. He also had an HSA, so he makes sure that's in order. Who knows? Things can happen, right? He also calls Verizon or AT&T and negotiates and tries to cut down on his data plan. He also calls Geico and start looking for a discount on insurance premium. Believe me, there are a lot of companies. Again, nobody's driving around, so these insurance companies are honoring discounts. They're not advertising it, but you just have to call. He's not buying lunch because he's not going to work, so he's cooking at home. So that's another way where he's saving some money. Then he talks to his landlord, right? He was renting, and he negotiates partial rent payments for the next 3 months. And, with the plan that he's going to be back working by then. But he's diligent. He's trying to cut down his expenses because, my goodness, he's out of work. So it's time to look at the budget. Let's go a little more down to try to see these two other action items. So he starts thinking. He had an idea of buying a new TV before he lost his job, right? And he's thinking maybe I got this $1,200 as a stimulus check. Maybe I should just buy that TV that I really like. But then with all the uncertainty that is happening, not only personally to him, but in the world, in the country. He says, you know what? Maybe not. You know, I don't really need. I mean, it will be nice. It will be nice to have this new TV. I kind of need it. I mean, this one's old and it's dated, the technology. But you know what? I'm out of a job right now, and I don't know really what's going to happen in the economy here. I'm going to use that $1,200, and I'm going to start. I'm going to start an emergency savings plan because I don't know what my situation is going to look like in the next 3 months. Right? So he puts down his entire $1,200 into the emergency savings account. And then, yeah, he's looking at that 4,000. You know, he has that 401k plan with a $10,000 balance. And like one of the ladies wrote in the question, the Q&A, he's saying maybe I should tap into my 401k plan. Maybe if I take, you know, not all of it, maybe I should just take $4,000 out of the $10,000. Why not? Right? It's mine. But the story ends. He chooses not to do. And I put it in green because that's the right decision. But let's go to the next slide because I'm going to show you the power of the opportunity cost, and that's going to happen. I think it's the next.
It's at the outcome, Ben?
Yeah, but go to the next one.
Oh, okay. No, not. Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Please, because I want to see the visual. So what happens is, right, and I hope everybody can see this. So, and then we can go back to the words. But if Ben does nothing and leaves the money there, he resists temptation and leaves his 401k plan, which is now $10,000, right? That's the blue line, the dark blue. At 65, which yes, it's a long time away, but that's what it's supposed to be, right? And we know that he's still going to need money at his old age. So when he's 65, that $10,000 could potentially turn into $106,000, right? That's fantastic. But if he had gone ahead and taken that $4,000 out, right, and now instead of $10,000, he only had $6,000 and leaves it there, well, it would only have grown the same amount of time, until he's 65 years old, and at the same rate of return, but now with less money. Now that growth comes out to be only $64,100, right? You can see it there. Big difference, 64 from 106. And then we put another one here. What if he takes $9,000, right? Almost everything out of the 401k plan. Only leaves $1,000 there. What happens is he only comes out at the end with $10,700. It doesn't grow much, right? So, when you balance that, again, everything into a balance. My goodness, if you have nothing, or with extreme situation, if you have nowhere to go and you need to eat, and remember basic expenses, you got to do what you have to do. But what we're seeing again and again and again is people taking money out of their 401k plans for expenses that could have been avoided, right? And instead, they're missing out on this potential growth, this compounding effect that happens when you leave the money in the 401k plan. So why don't we go to the next situation, right? It's similar but different in some parts. So this is Anita and Jorge, and they're married. Anita is 57 years old, and Jorge is 62. Anita is making $125,000. And Jorge is making $58,000. Maybe some of you, these are your parents, hypothetically. They both have a 401k plan. They've been participating, they've been contributing, and combined, they have, it says here, about $170,000. Jorge lost his job, right, because of the coronavirus. And Anita is still working, and this is all extra stuff that was not supposed to be there. This is a typo. But she still works, but Jorge loses his job. Why don't we go down and see what happens? So Jorge, we like Ben. He files for unemployment benefits and he gets $600 a week, which is nice help. Then what else does he do? Let's go to the next slide. He then turns into, looking at ways to cut down, and he negotiates. He calls his credit card companies, and because he had some debt, he had $15,000, and so he calls them and tries to negotiate the fees, because they're and the interest for at least for the time being until he gets back on a better footing, right? Then he also cancels the cable. And that's another chunk of money that he gets to save. He holds off on planning he was planning to buy a new car. He says, you know what? Not this year, not this time. We're gonna have to postpone that one for another time. Vacations. Well, since we're not going on vacation, we're gonna use that money that we had planned to use. And we're going to use that to pay our basic expenses, such as, rent, or was it mortgage, or was it food, or was it, essentials. So he reallocates money. And then we know that Jorge, he's 62 years old, so he files, he looks at his Social Security and see what he can do there and what he's eligible for. And we see that he can tap into his Social Security, but he said, you know what, I am not going to collect it. Why? Because I'm also told, I was educated, and I was told that if I postpone Social Security until 66 or until 70 years old, it goes higher. My amount that I qualify for, it goes higher the longer I wait. So I'm going to do that. Then he goes and looks also at his 401k plan. And he starts thinking, just like Ben did, it's like, maybe, what if I take $40,000 out of my 401k plan? We have 170. I can just take a $40,000 and see what he does. But he chooses not to, and I'm going to show you again the same exercise that I did before. I'll show you what happens. Let's go back to the slide before, because there's another action item that I want to share with everybody. So the deferral, the Social Security, that was important, and then the estate planning. So that's something else. Again, one can say, well, it's not financial related. It is. He took time and started looking at, papers, meaning, do I have a will? Gosh, if I get sick, what happens? Who makes a decision? So he took some time. He's not working now, and he started to look at all the things, that insurance policy that I had. Where is it? If something was to happen to me, can my spouse find the papers? Will she know where to look for it? Right? If I'm incapacitated, do I have a power of attorney in place? So that's a part that is important to consider and to keep in mind as well. So let's go to the next page, the next slide, and we can actually go to the actual graph.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
One more. So that's the same idea. So this is the 401k plan for both of them, right? Combined with 170,000. And if we start thinking, if he takes if it makes no withdrawals, if he leaves the money there, the money can go to $292,000, right? That's a nice pickup there. And instead, if he goes ahead and starts, he makes a withdrawal of $40,000, that amount drops to $223,000. And if they take half of that money, or almost half of that money, then it really drops to $168,400. So, we have to be careful with the decisions that we make when it comes to investments, because it's not just a straightforward withdrawal. We think it is, but it's because we're not accounting for that interest rate and that compounding effect. And yes, the fact that life gets more expensive in the future, and it's I look at it as a responsibility. So we need to be aware of how money grows, right? How can I make my money grow in the future when I know that things are going to be more expensive? Let's go to the next slide.
Well, this is our last slide. We'll need to close in the next couple of minutes,
Okay.
Arisleyda.
So
and here's your last one.
This is the last slide. It's just my contact information for anyone who wants to contact me. And these two things I am doing through my company, through my firm, Bank of America Merrill Lynch. I am doing seminars, and I thought to include them here. For those who are interested, these are open to the public. On July 21st, we'll have the mid-year outlook with our Chief Investment Officer. And then on July 29th, which I'm very excited about, it's the Family Love Letter. It's an interesting workshop going through the importance of keeping documents in order. We see it again and again and again and again that people, just they pass, and then the spouses, the children didn't know that they have things. Where are the accounts, the policies, So it's important to go through that and keep it in a place that your beneficiaries, the ones that are going to be left behind, know where they are, so they can find them. Passwords, make sure you have that in a place where people can find them. So that's that. But why don't I focus on? Let's hear. I'm sure there's going to be some questions.
Yeah.
Teresita.
Yes. Well, we have a few more questions, and this one in particular is not in line with this seminar, but I think it's a very interesting question. It has to do with financial scams, in particular ones that appear to be prevalent now with the pandemic. I would say in general, what cautionary tale do you have regarding financial scams? The particular one that noted here by a participant was, and take $4,000, get a $4,000 return investment on a $500 entry fee. Clearly that sounds awfully suspicious. So I think the general comment here is beware of very high returns. We've seen enough in the media and in the press today that Ponzi schemes and schemes regarding, you need only invest a small amount and you'll get a 19+% return, are more often than not fraudulent. And you should always be careful of those.
Yeah, there's always, I agree. I think if it sounds too good to be true, that should be an alert, right, to be concerned. And inevitably, there's always, you hear around tax season, right, that the phone calls from the IRS, emails. The rule, we know about it. We're very sensitive about it because we are a financial institution, and the protection of the information, the privacy of our clients comes first, right? So and we're spending a lot of money in technology to make sure that that's protected. So, but the rule of thumb is, with the cyber attack, it's emails, phishing, right? Emails that are that you can tell that the sender, it doesn't sound like even a normal email address. That's a sign. If they're asking you, there's certain things. If they're asking you, is there urgency on the email? or even on the phone call, right? Now, the offer is only valid for 10 minutes, for 1 hour, things like that. Nothing that is fair and prudent will have that kind of urgency. People will never ask you for a Social Security number. At that point, email us your Social Security number, or give us your Social Security number over the phone. That's
good point.
That's immediate alert for you, and don't click things that you're not sure about. That's for sure.
So, well, thank you for that. Yeah, we've had a number of other questions. I'm sorry we've run out of time, but I think, Arisleyda, first of all, thank you so much for this time. I know we had a few little technical glitches, but I think you got a good portion of your message across. I encourage everyone to email Arisleyda, especially if you'd like to participate in these additional seminars that she has coming up. We will, of course, as well at the Merrill Hill Institute, be posting more information, not just regarding this current seminar, which will have a recording available soon, but upcoming seminars as well. So again, thank you, Arisleyda. I think you've touched on all of the taglines and phrases today. You've talked about income stagnation. You've talked about what, being furloughed is becoming an issue, being debt laden, don't buy that car if you can't afford it, save 10% of your income for retirement, well put. And, as I always say, for crying out loud, stop throwing away your money on those expensive lattes, which is basically the underlying message that Arisleyda shared with you here today. So with that, thank you again. Thank you everyone for joining. And we hope to see you again on the next Merrill Hill Institute seminar, and look to our website for any and all information.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you to the board of Merrill Hill Institute, and please support the organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.